What? Okay. How we are using services, and thirdly, what each of us has been through as a care partner. So, due to the question, how
Still can't hear you.
could you raise your hands and let us know who cannot hear? Hey, Chrissy, can you hear Chrissy? No.
It's so funny. I hear you, but I'm not hearing Chris.
Is that
No.
James?
Here, let me try.
Yes.
I know.
Jess, I think the sound fluctuates depending on how close they are to the microphone.
Right.
It's going in and out.
Right, that's all the way up.
I hear Jennifer now.
Unfortunately, is this any better?
We do hear you.
Okay,
I
so
hear
this is better. So you guys are just gonna have to speak up a little bit loud.
Is it better, James, for me?
I hear you now. Yes.
Thanks. Okay, and now,
I not as loud, but yes.
okay, I'm gonna lean right over on the speaker here for you all.
Much better.
Okay, so our first question is why we are in MAPS, and I'll turn it over to Harold to answer first. I got involved in MAPS when Maria got sick. My neighbor knew Jenny Forte, who was involved in MAPS, and her husband unfortunately had passed away, but she was involved for a long time. And I called her and she encouraged me to go meet Rona and Julie and meet the group at Green Spring Valley. So I saw it as a support group and it was a big help, a lot of suggestions and sharing of information. So it really helped me, and I continue to be involved in it and hopefully can give back to people since Maria has passed away, to help support other people going through this journey. This support group through MAP from our neighbor whose mother was in the support group. So very interesting, just word of mouth was how I found out about it. And I felt completely incompetent when we found out my husband has Parkinson's, and he also has Lewy body dementia. So I immediately met Rona Rosenbaum, who really became my guiding star. Rona convinced me that I could be a good care partner for my husband. And she also just gave me a lot of personal support, steered me to some great resources on Lewy body dementia. And all of her kindness and also very blunt advice I've taken to heart, and I just keep coming back to the support groups as often as I can, even though they're now on Zoom. What I really want to stress is that many people have a horribly worse situation than I do. And I have still gathered so much from their taking the time and being so generous to share what they have been through. And it's been very comforting also because even though we're dealing with serious situations, the people in the group bring a levity and ability to laugh at our challenges as caregivers and make it very real that all of us have ups and downs. And the advice that we get is more like, take it if it helps you and leave it if it doesn't. It's great. I would say also that sometimes the group, just being in the support group has been hard for me because I've heard of a trajectory of illness that is frightening to me. It's been sort of scary, but I've also learned that this disease is different for every person. And what one person is going through does not necessarily mean that's what every person goes through. And I've also learned that what my husband has is actually something that makes many people gasp and think, how can you deal with that? That must be so horrible. And it's all a matter of degree and it's relative. So the support group is the primary thing that I feel like has been the big reason why I'm staying attached to the Maryland Parkinson's group.
Really helpful, and since when I was going through it with Maria, she actually had a past client. I feel like give you my story with her as a caregiver, but there's a little things that I don't know that you all, that people are on here that are in the group, was the supplies or medications or however you want to need things you need. Everybody has a little suggestion, and it's like more heads better than one, and you can help each other solve problems a little quicker.
That's very true. On that note, we wanted to talk about services. Carol?
Here.
Maria, unfortunately, she we went into COVID for one thing. A lot of people do like boxing and exercises, physical therapy. The only thing Maria, they stressed the exercises being really important. And she was the first year, 19 before COVID hit, we would go to the swimming pool with a caregiver with me. I had a helper, and we would take her swimming and exercise in the pool. Other than that, walking be the only exercise she really would do. And because she had, which I was going to describe to you, neuropathic pain in her feet. And one of the other members of the care group has that also. There's very few people with Parkinson's. Actually, Maria was called atypical Parkinson's. And very people have that, few people have that, some to a different degree. As Tricia, everybody has a little different degree of Parkinson's. And Maria's was really severe, and it was difficult for her to exercise, which with Parkinson's, as we all know, that's what you really need to do. So that was really difficult for her.
I hope this is better. We're being advised that we need to turn the computer closer to ourselves, and it's blocking out my buddy over here while we do that. I hope it is flipping. Just a few other things that are very important as part of MAPS. One is the regular newsletter that comes out and has lots of resources. Another, we've occasionally had some social events, and last summer we were able to get together outdoors and do a day at one of the members' swimming pool, and it was just so uplifting. It was just, you can't even begin to think about how beneficial that can be. And I would say that the opportunity to be a donor to MAPS is so important, because MAPS exists because of our contributions, and even making a regular contribution, whether it's a monthly or once a year, is so important. And it just so happens that because I have been a fundraiser for a long time, I can, really understand this and how important this is. So the a silent auction that was going to happen, in person is now a virtual silent auction starting today and going for the next 10 days. So please jump on the silent auction. I've enjoyed being a donor to the silent auction and also a donor to my regular support. I know it makes me feel better to take advantage of what's help being given. And before she died, Rona was such a top-notch fundraiser, and she really helped us learn a lot about how important it was to be giving.
Okay, I'm going to start telling you about Maria's journey, some of the good, some of the bad, some of the ugly, some of the difficult times, and some of kind of some good times. But Maria was a nurse at Kernan's Hospital, and about 2017, we went to my daughter's graduation up in Massachusetts. And I noticed she was kind of slower walking, and she come back and she just didn't want to do as much, and just was kind of having some anxiety, and then it kind of just muddled along, and she's kept doing a little less at home, taking longer to do her work, just seemed to have some problems. And I suggested to her at that time about retiring from work. In 2018, we went on vacation with our daughter and her husband, and we were up visiting her first cousin. Her first cousin said to us, "What's wrong with Maria?" I said, "Oh my golly." It was a shock to me that they noticed something was wrong. She was walking slower, dragging her feet. And that's when we first noticed. We got back and I said, "Oh, really, I don't know what's wrong with her other than she's tired a lot and she's not as active and slowing down." That's when we first noticed. In 18, and that was early June, later in June, she woke up that within like a week or two after we got back with suddenly chest pain, said, "I need to go to the ER." It was anxiety, actually. We went to the ER, checked her out. She actually was admitted under psych to St. Joseph's Hospital, was there for about a week, went home, did outpatient therapy, went gradually back to work, but really was slowing down, refused to travel, and starting having some pain in her feet, not as severe as it eventually got, but she just was tired all the time. Would go to my daughter's house and wouldn't play with the baby very much, and sit on the couch and would actually go to sleep. So our daughters, both of us, said, "You need to retire." Well, then again in November, she woke up again with this anxiety and went to the hospital, and they ruled everything out, got discharged. She did some outpatient therapy with them with psych, and the psychiatrist called me in and said, "Harold, I think she has early dementia." Well, that just really, because her history in her family, which I have not mentioned, is her father had Parkinson-like symptoms. Her uncle had Parkinson's. Her sister died of Parkinson's. Her mother died of Alzheimer's. So we had some history in the family on her side of the family that created some anxiety with her potentially having something. And after November, she really didn't go back to work. She took vacation time, stayed home over Christmas. In early January, she decided to go back to work for about a week or two. Again, had anxiety. We went to the hospital. They decided to do a CAT scan this time and found something like a meningioma in front of her brain. They transferred her to university. I found out it was benign, didn't really do anything, but she had severe pain in her feet and anxiety off the wall. And they tried to treat her with drugs. And then I think we got a drug interaction, and she was almost manic at times and just pacing the floor because she was in just neuropathic pain in her feet. They finally discharged her under neurology and put her on, of course, a whole bunch of meds. We were on gabapentin, carbidopa, and then pain medicine, which was, difficult. She could not walk without a walker and was home in a wheelchair. So, excuse me, we saw Dr. Sabat. We went and see him after like 2 weeks after go home. Oh, we're going to up your carbidopa and you're going to be cured and you'll be just fine. Well, that didn't really happen. She continued gradually trying to exercise with her neuropathic pain. We just kind of muddled along, got into a routine. She started having more problems with incontinence, trouble sleeping. So we got medication to sleep, put her on melatonin, and she was on Zoloft, of course, and she would sleep, but she would have to wake up and go to the bathroom. And eventually I had to get caregivers. My daughter quit her job, come back from Massachusetts to help me. And we kept going back to see Dr. Sabat. Finally decided to go get a second opinion at Hopkins. And that's one of the things they called it, cognitive impairment, cognitive decline, and University called cognitive impairment, one of the others. And it's basically the same, but with her Parkinson's, she just gradually declined, and we eventually I had caregivers because I lost like 20 pounds, losing sleep, trying to take care of her. And what was interesting, her activities, she would start reading, then she quit reading. Then she watched old TV shows on iPad, and I would try to get a routine. I think that was, which to help me and to help her, COVID hit too in January 20 or right after that. And that was a big bummer because as far as going out, the only thing we could do would be walk, and really couldn't go anywhere, but she didn't like going anywhere because it hurt to ride in the car. So the next year, 20, we stayed home basically, and I helped take care of her, had caregivers come in, which again was kind of a problem because some people would go off and I have to get somebody else to come in, have to retrain them. So that was the worst part of it. The good part was I had a couple that were really good and understood Maria and took very good care of her. We progressed into 2001, and we actually decided to get another opinion. We went to an alternative medicine up in Turnbull, up in Mechanicsburg, and that didn't really help. They thought, oh yeah, we would figure out some medications, some homeopathic things would help, but it really didn't. My daughter thought that would be a good idea, and Maria didn't like riding an hour and a half in the car. So that was a bummer too. So we went and got they decided that Dr. Sabat just kept changing medications, upping her carbidopa, and we played with medicine a lot, up and down. And one of the most important things I think in caregiving is having a routine, also for you and also for your spouse or loved one. And that really, I saw as if I could get in that routine, it really helped. And then after 2001 in about June, we decided to see the neuropsychiatrist, and they felt like Maria should get a ECT done and tried to maybe electroshock the brain and see if that would help. And it didn't really help. She was in the hospital about a month, where they went through a whole bunch of tests. Each week they would do 1 or 2 shocks a week, and it didn't really help. So my daughters felt like this has been a burden for me at home. We put her in Springwell Memory Unit, She did okay, but she would refuse therapy there because it hurt to walk. So I'd have to go in and just basically help her get to walk. And that was difficult. Unfortunately, being sedentary, she was sitting in the chair a lot or in a wheelchair, and she wasn't doing a whole lot. And I was thinking maybe I'd have to bring her back home. In September last year, I went in to visit her on a Sunday, or actually it was Labor Day, and she said, she had her lunch. I said, I want some chocolate ice cream for dessert. I said, okay. So I got her some chocolate ice cream. And I said, okay, I'm going to go down and swim and do my exercises at the pool at the Meadowbrook, and then I'll be back up to see you. So it was very close. I wasn't very far away. And they called me right after I'd finished swimming and said Maria was unconscious, and unfortunately she passed away. And my daughters felt like because of the history of the family, we should get an autopsy. We did. Turns out Maria also had Lewy body disease. And several of my doctors I worked with at trauma told me it was a blessing. It was sudden, it was a shock. One of the takeaways is we had advanced directives, everything done as far as our planning, and felt like that, we needed to do that. This was during when she first got sick. My daughters really felt strongly about it. So what if something happens to you, Dad? Where would we be? Because Maria was slowly declining, not remembering everything. And so we went ahead and got it done and did a will, power of attorney, and advanced directives. So one of my suggestions, if anybody is in the situation of a loved one, is to do those things that are really important, and it saved a lot. And one of the things I said to her, it sounds kind of crazy, but Maria, we have never really talked about where do you want to be buried, or what do you want? Of course, she couldn't, at that point, she couldn't decide. And she was sometimes tough making decisions. So I suggested a couple places, and she wanted to be buried next to her grandmother, who helped take care of her as a young child. So that's what we did. My daughters agreed, and so that's what we did. It was a tough journey. In Parkinson's history of most people, it was very short, because from the time she's diagnosed in 18 till 21 was like 3 years. And it was pretty quick. But it had some good days, but also had some bad days. So that's my story.
Thank you so much, Harold. It's been really a blessing for me to get to know you in the support group. And of course, our hearts go out to you. This is a tough thing to have to relive today. We'll move to questions in a little bit. I just want to share my situation right now. My husband was diagnosed just about 3 years ago exactly. And we knew from the get-go that he had Lewy body dementia and Parkinson's. And that has helped with us getting him good medication and a very good consultation with his doctors who work hand in hand together, his GP and his neurologist, which is a really great thing we've got that worked out. I think the things that have changed the most for me, I try to describe to people that I have to think for both of us. And my husband is very irritable and resentful of that. And he can get surly and very angry, very stubborn. I also now, it's been about 2 years, I do all the driving. And he really, really can't stand it that I'm doing all the driving. And it's caused unfortunate friction, even though we've worked out, some solutions. They're often hard for him to remember that he's agreed to some solutions. He's also in his own head a lot, and it has created some loneliness for me. He appears to be reading, he reads a lot of books, but because he can't really talk about it, I don't really have the same kind of conversations with him that we used to have. But I'm very glad he's still reading. He's very compliant with his exercise regimen, and I would strongly recommend the exercise. Everything has been told to us, exercise is medicine in this disease. But I've also managed to find ways to have friends take Bill to those appointments, because I have to go with him to every other doctor appointment. I am both the reporter of what is real and what is happening, and that feels really strange, but he really can't do it. I also am taking a lot of notes. So there's a record of those appointments and medicine changes, etc. I would recommend highly to have a therapist. I started very early on with a therapist for myself because this is a struggle personally. It's emotionally, I'm very aware how many people with Parkinson's and dementia have anxiety and depression, but as a spouse, I also have anxiety and fight depression around this. Fortunately, it's not the first time I've had anxiety and depression, so I have been able to get myself help. And I think that also what's on me a lot now is that I make most of the decisions. And I try to engage Bill, and I try to involve him and ask him before we make decisions. He has not paid attention to a single thing related to money in several years. And I should have actually noticed there's something wrong with that, because he's been like that for a long time, but it got a lot worse since we found out that he has this Lewy body dementia. I think that back to the issue of the sleep, Bill getting a good night's sleep is critical, because I bear the brunt when he is tired, just as I think he probably bears the brunt when I'm not sleeping well. And we have really pushed this with the docs around figuring out ways to get help so that he can sleep better. So that is another aspect of this that I think is helpful. I think I'll end with two things. I really have to work at making sure that there's social activity. There's no Parkinson's in Bill's family, but there is exactly one person in Bill's family who makes an effort to talk about this, to talk to Bill, to call, to visit. It's been very shocking to me how little attention they are paying, knowing this is a chronic, this is a progressive disease, and it will be not a long time before he's not with us. And I try not to be resentful about that. I just want to be with people who want to be with us and who will also provide some respite for me, because especially since I've retired, there's a lot of closeness, and not in a bad way, but just more than we're used to. And sometimes we can sort of suffer from feeling like we're the other person's second skin. So I do recommend getting that kind of support and help, and keeping friends in the circle, and explaining to them how important that is. The people who care, they'll be there for you. I can honestly say that has just been a real gift. So we'll wrap with this at this point, and then we'll either look for your questions in the chat or in person. Okay, so Jessica's gonna come give me a hand with this chat and see if there's any questions. There's a question about a patient who won't talk about the Parkinson's would learn about it. And I'm imagining that that's pretty tough. It seems that the writer has Parkinson's and her spouse is not helpful about it. So here's what this is speaking to me is saying there's a very, very high level of denial going on, and not talking about it, could mean for your husband that maybe it will just go away if he doesn't talk about it. And, the only thing that I could advise is maybe he could talk to someone else, not you, because it's too painful to talk to you about your illness, but maybe he could talk to either a support group like ours or get a therapist. What do you think, Harold?
Yeah, or a friend or church or temple, synagogue, whatever, if you go to have support for that, a close friend or a family member, somebody that you're even worked with, that could talk to him about it. If you had an idea of someone or in the family or a friend and that could talk to him if they didn't want to talk to you about it. That would be my suggestion. And or a therapist, if you would agree to go to one.
We aren't seeing any other questions, but we're also welcome any comments, any other people's experiences as care partners that you'd like to pop in and share before we sign off in a few minutes.
One of the things I like to say is when Dr. Pontone's opening of a keynote remarks, one of the things he stressed was diet, exercise, and sleep. And I think that's one of the most important things as far as a caregiver, as well as your loved one who has the Parkinson's, is a routine that a diet and exercise and sleep. If you can get into a routine, I think we all do better. It's pretty common sense, but I didn't realize how important it was till I got into the role as a caregiver, because I was basically neglecting me to take care of Maria, my wife, and neglecting me. And my daughters recognized it and actually said, "You need help." And that's when we got my daughter come home and helped. And then we got caregivers so that I could get sleep and eat better and exercise, have time to go exercise. I actually had family friends come in when the caregiver left and said, "Here, I'll just go for 2 hours or get out of the house, go. I don't care where you go." But with COVID, it was kind of tough, but at least you could go out for a walk, go exercise, and just get away and have alone time and to yourself, whatever you wanted to do, read, watch TV, or just to get out.
Thanks. It is a very important message around self-care, and maybe we really don't recognize our own problems. And I can honestly agree that sometimes it's other people who say something to you. I had the same thing happen to me as Harold had, when more than one person would say to me, "What's wrong with Bill?" And when it's someone who says to you, "This is taking a pretty big toll on you, everybody's worrying about Bill," I think that it takes good friends and close family to say, we're seeing this really add up a toll on you too, and make you. My sister is a big shopper and she's a big fan of retail therapy, and I've laughed about it, but I also find, just going to stores and doing this mindless stuff to just get away and think of something else can help. Between myself and my husband, our roles have really flipped since I retired. but before I retired, my husband was the person who did all the grocery shopping. He planned and cooked all the meals. And he cannot do any of that by himself anymore. He still wants to do that. And boy, would I just love to be able to drop him off at the grocery store and say, you know, go for it, I'll pick you up in an hour, but I just can't do that anymore. And sometimes I feel a little tied down. I'm not complaining. I understand that it is my time to be with him for activities, but it does occur to me sometimes that, boy, you know, when I was in my job and I was going back and forth to Washington, and Bill just took care of the house, and he, you know, he also had a job, but he was home by 4:30 in the afternoon. And now I have to look at recipes and I have to figure out how to cook dinner. And I do think that is extremely important that I ask him to help me, give him something where he can contribute and feel valued. So he does like to do that sometimes. As a matter of fact, when I've asked him, how do you feel about me being in the kitchen and making dinner? He says, it's making me very nervous. So, but a little light moment once in a while, it really helps. I think we're about to wrap up. So here comes Jesse.
All right, thank you all so much. This concludes our last breakout session. We would really like you to continue to stay with us for a few more moments. Go back to our main page at www.meyerburg.org/LWP and stick around with us for our closing remarks. We've enjoyed everyone's company today and lots of great questions and feedback, and we can't wait to see you again next year. Thank you.